Atlanta is just great racing, honestly, not just good racing, great racing. I'm sorry to everybody who's probably yelling at this right now. John Cena will not win the Welcome to Left Turns, Right Hooks, episode number 9. I am your host, Dan Lindsay. Got a lot on tap today. We have Elimination Chamber later tonight as this video comes out. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be John Cena's last Chamber match, which is interesting to me in a lot of ways, so stay tuned for that. But I've also got some NASCAR topics for you this week. Yes, I know it's been a lot of wrestling content lately, so this is needed to kind of get back on the NASCAR track as well. I've got reactions to the first 2 drafting tracks for this season. I'm going to issue my very, very late playoff picks for the season and preview some things that I'm trying to do throughout the spring in the early part of the NASCAR season. So with that, let's talk NASCAR. We hit turn 1 as I share my thoughts on the first 2 weeks of the season. And honestly, I hate the term drafting tracks. Daytona and Talladega are super speedways through and through. They are the big tracks. They are the tracks that take a skill that you don't really have at other tracks. They always have been. They always will be super speedways. I know super speedway is in the name of a lot of tracks on the circuit, but these 2 tracks are the epitome of a definition to me for a super speedway. But now apparently we have this drafting tracks category. I get it. I totally get it. Atlanta it's new. It's a repave with this new car, next gen car on it. It's going to do some things that we see at the bigger tracks, but Atlanta's a 1.5 mile track. It's an intermediate track. Half the circuit is intermediate tracks. We have super speedways, intermediates, short tracks, and work courses. But no, but those are getting broke down and lumped in different ways. And honestly, it's a part of the next gen car. So I guess I'll try to get on board with this drafting track terminology that we have, but I just don't like it. I wish we could just go look at Atlanta and just call it good racing, because that's what it was. Good racing all throughout the race. I know it ended in quote-unquote controversy. NASCAR made the right call there. They totally made the right call to throw the caution and freeze the field because it was the white flag. I was down for that. Did they mess it up at Daytona? A little bit. Did they mess it up the same week in Atlanta? Yes. And they admit that. It's still a work in progress for them, but the main concern is safety, and they made sure everything was safe there. We are looking for a possible second straight year of a 3-wide finish, but that could have been very bad too if everybody would have gotten a little extra antsy trying to get back to the checkered flag. So I'm going to go back to good racing. Atlanta is just great racing, honestly, not just good racing, great racing. It's exactly what we got. 15 different leaders, nearly half of the field led a lap in the race in Atlanta. And it includes B.J. McLeod. Yes, B.J. McLeod, an uncharted team. It was only 1 lap, but hey, he got to lead a lap. He can say he led a lap in Atlanta. 15 different leaders. They combined for 50, yes, 50 lead changes. Guess what? That is a new track record at Atlanta. You're telling me that wasn't a good race? It was a good race. It should have been higher than the 81 or 83% that we had in Jeff Gluck's poll. Much higher. Should have been the 90s again. Great racing. And the end does not change the way that race was in totality for me. It was great seeing Cindric and others just battle back and forth, swapping the lead back and forth. A couple laps here, a couple laps there. It was great. That's what you want to see. Can't ask for much more. Maybe they should have raced at Atlanta like once every other month. Who knows? And at the end, I was pulling for Carson Hocevar. He may very well won that race if it wasn't for the caution flag on the last half lap. He squeezed himself, or he might have caused the caution himself if he wasn't too careful there. Now, again, we can't let the end of the race dictate what we thought about the race as a whole. We had guys that were starting in the back, moving their way up. You were able to move through that crowd with the right type of car and the right type of setup. We saw Penske, Ford dominate the whole weekend, qualifying especially, but some wrecks took them out. But they still had a very strong showing throughout, especially Austin Cindric. And honestly, I feel bad for Austin Cindric. He clearly had the best setup at both Daytona and Atlanta, and just the wrecking machine literally got him in both of those races. So here's hoping to actually get some good finishes this season, maybe even a win. But I do feel bad for Austin Cindric. The winner of the race, Christopher Bell, well, he won at a track that isn't always his best for winning races. And I should scare the garage. I should put the garage on notice. The spring schedule is very, very favorable for Christopher Bell. He could take an early lead on the point standings. He could get up to multiple wins very quickly, and that's just gravy when it comes to the playoffs. So I thoroughly enjoyed the first few races of the season. I know I'm in the minority. Daytona is a fuel savings race, and that is kind of my one little, I guess, complaint about the race. I wish they could do different things. I don't think we'll ever see them go to like a bigger fuel tank or them adjust the stage lengths, even add a stage at Daytona and even Talladega. I don't think any of those things will happen, but I do have one quick idea that might help it, but it requires one whole manufacturer group to get on board. And I take this idea from Talladega from last year, the spring Talladega race, where all the Toyotas decided to come off the pit road, line up with one another. They pitted together, came out together, lined up, and had one nice little long train that was booking it. It was a freight train until John Hunter Nemechek, he got out of line. Then like half that lot of line wrecked, and it was all for moot. I want to see that again, and I want to see that again at the front. If one manufacturer can say we're going to get in line, we're going to charge the front, we're going to set the pace. We're not worried about fuel savings. We want to run fast laps. We want to win this race. We're going to work together for that. So I would love to see a manufacturer attempt something like that. I think if one manufacturer did, that would just force everyone else to keep up. I hope. That is my thought here. May not, because if that one manufacturer does it, but they can't get to the front of the field, well, then it's all for moot. But I think if one manufacturer can just group together and push and get to the front of the line like that and set the pace, everybody else will have to keep up, and then it doesn't become fuel saving strategy. It becomes pit strategy. 2 tires, 4 tires, fuel only, what have you. And I'd rather the pit strategy than just fuel saving strategy and ride around in big groups. Big groups is nice for a time, and what helps attracts the casual viewer, but let's actually have racing. If Atlanta can do what it can do, we can do close to the same thing on these big super speedways. We just gotta get people behind it and not worried about fuel saving so much, and rely on other strategies like we used to see not even 10, 15 years ago. But again, I still enjoy the race. Just I gotta have one thing I gotta try to fix, but I still enjoy the race. The repave at Atlanta, again, it's done well. Some are even saying the maturity of the track hasn't even reached its full potential. So Atlanta's going to be great for the next few years. And then we'll just have to see what happens as this car develops more and as that track develops more. But I don't want any changes here. It's great racing. Again, NASCAR made the right call with the caution. Carson Osfar isn't going to make a lot of friends this year. Didn't make a lot of friends last year. Probably won't make a lot even the coming years. But that's okay, because what do Tony Stewart, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and many others have in common? They didn't make a lot of friends either, and they are at the top of their game. And outside of Hamlin, multiple championships between all of them. So I think Carson Hocevar will be all right. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get a win not too far into this season. Speaking of fixing things like I was trying to fix Daytona, let's hit turn 2. And I got some ideas that I want to try to flesh out more for this season, but I want to kind of give a preview of what I'm working on as the season goes on for NASCAR. Fantasy booking, that's a fun thing I like to do with the wrestling. So let's not necessarily fantasy book NASCAR, but let's say we could take one day of running NASCAR. Here's a few things I'd fix. I got a few topics that I want to get to. And speaking of wrestling too, I've got some stuff that coming up later in the pod. But what an awesome crossover with my two worlds colliding when the winner of the Daytona 500, William Byron, drove up into the arena in Charlotte and dropped off AJ Styles. That was a really cool moment. William was there for the card as well on Raw that night. I just thought that was a lot of fun. Worlds colliding, just great. I hope we see that. Heck, maybe we'll even see a NASCAR driver in the Royal Rumble sometime, right? All right, back to some things I want to get fixed, but that maybe we'll throw that up there as like, hey, let's get some more crossovers, guys. And I've got a few topics here that I want to tackle over the next few weeks and months. And if you have any ideas, please leave a comment down below for me and let me know what you think of these ideas. If you have any thoughts on these ideas I'm going to throw out here. So one thing I want to throw out is fixing the playoff point system. I heard a lot of ideas around the end of last season, before this season, on what to do, and I'm very glad that NASCAR is deciding to evaluate the 2025 season before making changes, instead of only taking the short off season and be like, oh, let's make this, and this change. And it's like, no, they're being smart, evaluating the whole season. So I have some thoughts going through my head, kind of combining some ideas that I have to give credit to for the teardown with Jordan Bianchi, Jeff Gluck, and Denny Hamlin's podcast. They have a lot of great ideas. I'm kind of trying to combine them a little bit to make one big idea. I don't know how well this will go, but I'm going to at least try. But that's one of my topics I want to get into as the season goes on. Another topic that's kind of associated with that is kind of balancing the track schedule for the regular season and the playoffs. I'll get into that more again, and this isn't necessarily like a big complaint with the NASCAR right now, but it's something that, well, there's nothing else to argue about. It gets brought up as a topic. So I kind of have some ideas there about, honestly, we have too many short tracks. We go to the same place too many times. So let's drop some of those. Let's get some other intermediate tracks. And let's go twice as other places that we used to. Maybe bring in some old tracks back from the 90s and 2000s. I got a bunch of ideas here, so I'm going to throw that all into a podcast episode as well, coming up in the next few weeks. The next idea is NASCAR growth. How does NASCAR grow? Now, originally I was thinking of centering this around the lawsuit that 2311 and Front Row have with NASCAR now, but there's just so much going on with that and so much undecided, so much being deliberated. I didn't really feel comfortable going that route. And then I just thought, wait, the best way for NASCAR to grow is to focus on the youth of this sport. The ARCA Series, great breeding ground for the next generation of drivers. And alongside of that now is the Cars Tour, owned by former drivers Dale Jr. and Kevin Harvick, among others. And Keelan Harvick, Kevin Harvick's kid, is only 12. And this weekend, he's making his debut in the Cars Tour. He's 12. That's cool. And that's just like the perfect point to show that NASCAR needs to invest in the youth for growing the sport more. Now, if there's a lot of, 12, 15, 18, 20-year-olds coming up over the next few years, they're going to have to fight for rides. They're going to have to prove why they deserve a ride in the Truck Series or ARCA or the Xfinity Series, and especially Cup. In an event, we'll get into a cycle where the older hat in the Cup Series and Xfinity a little bit will be like, hey, I'm good. I'm satisfied with my career. And these new guys will be able to step in. But I've got a lot of ideas around here. I think you can expand charters, expand your field, work on more development systems like Trackhouse and JRM have with Justin Marks Jr. That's how Connor Zilic is doing what he's doing. Connor Zilic, 18 years old, making his Cup debut at COTA this week. He hasn't even run a full Xfinity season yet. He's full-time in Xfinity this year, but last year he was part-time and pulled off a win in his part-time schedule in Xfinity. He might be the next really, really big thing, but there's more and more talent coming up right up behind him, and NASCAR really needs to start investing in those tours. The last topic I'm going to preview here that I want to get into in the coming weeks, the green-white checkered overtime rules. No one likes what we currently have. The current rule allows for multiple green-white checkers. We had one race with 5 of them last year. Some didn't mind it. Some thought it was excessive. I'm kind of in the middle. My idea might be a step backward, but I think once fleshed out, it could end up being a middle ground for a lot of folks. And so I'm going to try to dive into that too in the coming weeks. So I know it's a lot, but look for Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You'll see some of these topics come up. And I'll talk about some more stuff throughout the season as it gets underway. But before we get too late into this podcast, I got to get my playoff picks in. Let's hit turn 3. And I know I'm sort of cheating here. We're 2 weeks into the season. But I need to put this out here at some point. And as of right now, it's, well, better late than never. Also, as I thought about the playoff picks, I'm on Team Chaos. I think it would be fun to see 18 different winners fighting for 16 spots. If you win, you're in the playoffs. But if we have more than 16 drivers, then you got to come down to points, right? So I'd love to see like 17 or more drivers win a race, and then it really, really becomes a point battle again to see who truly gets some of these tiebreakers. So let's get into these picks. I have 6 guys that I think are just playoff locks. 3 from Hendrick, 3 from JGR. Hendrick gets 3 in and only 3. And JGR, I think, only gets only 3 in out of their 4. No one's going to field their full team of the 4-car teams. My 3 from Hendrick, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott. Byron's already in, but I'm not. Are we surprised by that? Really, that Byron's already in? I'm not. He was competing in Atlanta, and he was doing really well in Daytona and lucked into that win in a way. But he was in the right place at the right time. That's where you have to be sometimes at Daytona. And again, he ran well at Atlanta, and spring's usually good for him anyway. So I think, he's a lock. I don't think that was ever in doubt. Same with Kyle Larson, same with Chase Elliott. On the JGR side, my locks are Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell. And I actually can expect Chase Briscoe to make it for the second straight year as he's gotten an upgrade in his equipment. He made it last year. I think he'll get back in again this year with JGR and the number 19. All 3 drivers for Penske should make it in as well. But to me, Ryan Blaney is the only lock out of that one. So 7 drivers I have for like playoff locks. But again, I do expect all 3 Penske drivers to make it. But Logano is racing in an odd numbered year, so I might be off about Logano. We'll see what happens. Some drivers that I feel should get in with a win, but I could see them just making it on plain points are a few of them. Logano's the top of my list. He will get his points. He will do well. He may not win a race, or he may not win till late, but I think he will accumulate enough points throughout the season to where he can still get in, but maybe not have to necessarily have a win. Other guys that fit in that category for me, Tyler Reddick and Brad Keselowski. I think they both could do well. Tyler Reddick is your defending regular season champion, so I'd be shocked if Tyler Reddick doesn't make the playoffs again this year as well. My bold pick for the playoffs, which probably isn't super bold, but considering he didn't make it last year and didn't get a win for the first time in his career in 20 years, I'm going with Kyle Busch. He gets his win. He's going to have to win to get in. I don't think he quite falls in the category to where he will have enough points throughout the season to get in. I think a win is a must for him. The bigger tracks, guys that I think are a must win to get in, because we will have plenty of guys battling for points, but again, win, you're in. So I have 5 guys that I feel have to win to get in, because I don't know if they're going to have enough of a consistency this season to make the playoffs without a win. Austin Cindric, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, Carson Hocevar, and SVG. I was so excited that Hocevar almost pulled off that victory in Atlanta. Like I said earlier, we were in line for that possible 3-wide finish if it wasn't for the caution. But I still think he gets a win. That'd have been cool if he would have gotten the win before I said this, but I'm kind of glad he didn't get the win, because then I'm not cheating as much here with this. But I still think Hocevar will put himself in line for a win. I think he should get a win before it's all said and done for this year. Cindric should be able to make it back in. I'm hoping Chris Buescher can redeem himself from last year. He didn't make it in, but he was really close. But Wallace, he keeps trending up, so I feel like those 3 drivers should do well this season, but it'll still be a win. Just makes it feel all the much better for them. And SVG, maybe a dark horse pick to get the playoffs. I don't know. I think you'd go with a bunch of other guys. I didn't mention Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez, Todd Gilliland, Ross Chastain. four guys that could easily make the playoffs over any of these other guys that I've mentioned. But I think SVG is borderline locked to make the playoffs just because he's good on road courses. To me, that's why he was brought full time. I don't think you bring a guy full time like SVG unless you are fairly certain he can dominate at least one or two of the road courses and maybe even some of the short tracks too. Bowman, great. He was pretty well there, and Martinsville will lend itself to the same kind of style. SVG is getting better on ovals, and the short tracks will kind of help him because he kind of beat or bang around and not be as costly as damage on your mile and a half tracks. So SVG, I feel, could get a win maybe this weekend at Coda, maybe later in the season. But I feel like, again, he has to win to get in. He'll be consistent enough this year, but I feel SVG will give us that win to make the playoffs. So let me know if you think I'm wildly off base or not. And before we hit some WWE topics, let's get around to turn 4 and take a quick take on some contenders at Coda. I'm excited to see what this shortened Mario Kart shortcut version of this race will be like. I do expect SVG, as I was talking about, to be a top 5 runner most of the race. Connor Zilic, again, making his Cup debut. Honestly, I'm not expecting much from him. I think just finishing the race and landing in the top 20 would be a wonderful day for him. He could do more. He might not last more than 10 laps. We'll have to see, but it's cool to see him making his Cup debut at such a young age. I do wish him the best of luck. But I don't quite want to put the money on betting that he'll try to win the race, but I think he'll finish. I think he'll be close to the top 20. Another guy to kind of keep an eye out for is A.J. Allmendinger. He should do okay here, as well as some of the Hendrick cars. Byron, Larson, Bowman, they're usually really good on road tracks. They never usually disappoint on these tracks. But I am dipping into the 2311 camp for my pick this weekend. My pick, Tyler Reddick, to get his first win of the season. I think he takes home the trophy for the new Coda configuration. Again, should be a very entertaining race this weekend. I can't wait for it. Road courses after all this pack racing, so 3 wild card races until we get to the meat of the spring of this season. But I'm liking it so far. Hope you are too, but that's my pick for Coda. Let's hit some WWE before we say goodbye. All right, before we go, I have to talk about Elimination Chamber. It's tonight. And we only have 3 matches. That's weird to me. Like, I'm used to these, gimmick PLEs having 2, maybe 3 matches outside of the gimmick match. But to have literally only one other match between the 2 chamber matches. Yes, I know we have the Cody and Rock confrontation. I have thoughts, but I don't have a lot of thoughts. I honestly got to see what happens before I truly comment on what's next here. I guess I'm hoping Cody says no. I'd be shocked if he says yes, honestly. So I'm hoping he says no. And that somehow gets us to The Rock and Roman that we've been waiting for 3 years now. We didn't know we were so close to it in 39, but we wanted it. We didn't really want it last year, even though we almost had it. And now that we're kind of early even talking about it, maybe we finally get it. 3rd time is the charm, right? But I truly don't know. But I do hope Cody says no at least here. And the unsanctioned match, I have thoughts here as far as why not just go with street fight or an I Quit match? Why does it have to be unsanctioned? You're still getting paid to go out there and do a match. You just don't want responsibility. I felt they over-explained it unnecessarily on Raw, and you could have just gotten a lot around this stuff by saying, have an I Quit match, have a street fight, what have you. Let them beat up on each other for 45 minutes, call it a day. KO has snapped. I wouldn't be surprised if Sammy does too after this match. I honestly don't know what to expect except just a flat-out brawl. It could be 45 minutes. It could be 10 minutes for all I know. And a good friend of the podcast, Tyler, he put an idea in my head about Randy Orton. Do we get Randy Orton here? We need a program, I guess, for Kevin Owens at Mania. Same with Randy if he's back before Mania. Same with Sammy. So Randy coming back could give us our Randy KO program that we've been waiting for since last fall. So with those couple things out of the way, let's get to the actual chamber matches. The women's chamber, I'm just going to go through each competitor. Starting off with Roxanne. I don't expect Roxanne to win it. She's on the cusp of the main roster, but I think she might be needed in NXT, maybe just a hair longer. Not really sure. She seems like in a weird limbo. This could be a great opportunity for her to get a championship shot. She has been great on the NXT roster. But if they look at the current landscape and they're like, yeah, we might kind of still need you for some storylines, maybe they don't put this chamber win on her. Turning to Naomi, she's probably my biggest underdog in this match. I don't expect her to win. She's involved in this Bianca and Jade storyline, we think. I don't know there. That's remained to be seen. But we'll see. Bayley, to me, that's like the safe pick in a way. She's one of the, well, I shouldn't say one of the only. She's the one woman on the Raw roster that's not in the tag team right now. And are not the tag team champion. So I wouldn't be shocked if she won. Again, I think it's a safe pick. You can't go wrong with her. She's a good worker. Her and Rhea would probably tear it down. But I don't feel quite easy about that pick. With Morgan, her feud with Rhea finally just ended, and now she's even half of the women's tag team champs. I think her and Raquel winning the tag team championships kind of eliminates her from winning the chamber. Again, you never know. They might want to do Liv and Rhea one more time. Wouldn't shock me. I'm sure that'd be another really good match. But it's been and done enough in the last 9 months that I really hope we don't get it again. But we don't know what will happen with this one. So that's my reason for Liv. Bianca seems like a great logical pick. But I think it just depends on what they're trying to do with this Jade Cargill storyline. If with the storyline, I could see Bianca and Jade, having a match at WrestleMania. But a chamber win, so a chamber win would kind of stop that for her. But who knows? They could still be doing a slow burn with that feud. I don't know. This women's chamber is honestly really tough for me. It's tough. I might honestly end up talk to myself into Alexa Bliss. Like, part of me doesn't want to go with Bliss because she's on the SmackDown roster, not Raw. It would be a huge boost for her, though, as she just came back at Rumble. And, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be in the Raw roster to challenge for the Raw title. You could transfer over to the Raw roster if you won, the title that's on Raw. But to me, if we're trying to apply brand logic here, which doesn't always work, I feel Alexa may not be the pick, but at the same time, I think that is my pick just because everybody else has a storyline right now. Even Bayley and Roxanne have their little whatever. So I could see, not by default because I feel like Alexa Bliss deserves it. She has experience in a chamber. She's done well in chamber matches. So yeah, I think this can be my pick. I'm going to talk myself into picking Alexa Bliss for the women's elimination chamber. Now, turning to the men's elimination chamber. I'm going to get this out right now, right away. Just get it out of the way. John Cena will not win the elimination chamber. I'm sorry to everybody who's probably yelling at this right now. John Cena will not win the elimination chamber. Sorry. His road to number 17 is going to be hard. He was heartbroken at Rumble. He's not going to be able to get through this gauntlet of a men's chamber match. Just number one contenders every single pod in this chamber match. Like, might be one of the most stacked men's chamber matches in recent memory. But it's gonna be hard for Cena to get championship number 17. He's not just gonna be able to declare for the chamber and be like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna win it too. He might still figure out how to get a match at WrestleMania for number 17, but shoehorn himself in somehow. They might want to just give a big money match to him as well. But the road for 17 is going to be hard. I don't want to speculate too far out just in case, but I just don't feel, while Cena's a great logical pick, I don't feel Cena is going to win because I feel like that's a great logical pick for telling the story of we're going to make the road to get number 17 for John Cena extremely, extremely tough. Like Naomi was my underdog role for the women's Elimination Chamber, Logan Paul fits that bill for me in the men's Elimination Chamber. His storyline is kind of lacking. He hasn't had much. We all thought he quit WWE, and then a couple weeks later he shows up saying he's going to be at Netflix on Raw, so he's back with the company. Sure, good for him. I mean, as much as he can just be him, he does really well at this wrestling thing. So your main job is to get a reaction, and he gets a reaction. That's for sure. To me, the storylines are a little tough, but at the same time, I feel like he can do a one-off with just about everybody in the Elimination Chamber. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a match with Cena or with Punk or with Rollins, depending on what happens in the Elimination Chamber. I think you could put a really quick storyline together for them to have a Mania match. Rollins and him running it back another time after WrestleMania 39. I don't think anybody would be disappointed in that rematch. But Logan Paul, I don't feel wins the Elimination Chamber. Seth Rollins, same thing. Or actually, I shouldn't say same thing, but no for me on Seth. I think he's definitely going to be valiant. I think he could very easily end up being one of the first two in the ring and one of the last eliminated, just because that's who he is. That's his style. And I just don't think he's the right one-on-one contender. I don't think he's the right one-on-one match for Cody right now. They'd burn it down again, reigniting their feud that started at WrestleMania 38. But I feel Rollins is either going to be another one of those matches where he's going to do really well with a newcomer, maybe Penta, or he's going to somehow find himself involved in the Rock and Roman ordeal once again. Or he gets inserted into the title match because he just does. I don't know. Rollins is kind of one of those. You can do a lot of different directions with this storyline right now, and that what makes him so versatile. But I just don't think of everybody in here. I don't think he is going to win the Chamber. I'd honestly put his chances of winning the Chamber less than Logan Paul's chances of winning the Chamber. Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. I kind of wonder if one of these two guys occupy a spot that might initially have been set for Roman. I don't expect either of them to win the Chamber. They're not really in a true title feud right now, either of them. They could be. They've been there, especially last year around this time. I don't expect them to be involved with the title feud just yet around Cody. But we could get a program between these two at WrestleMania, and the story at Chamber might give us that easy reason to put these two against each other at WrestleMania 41. So my pick, if you haven't been keeping track, is the last guy that I haven't talked about, CM Punk. He is my pick to win 2025 Elimination Chamber. He needs his world title shot and WrestleMania main event. And him and Cody would be fire. They would tear the house down. Their promos recently on television have been great from a few weeks ago. Now, here's my big caveat with him. I think if he wins the Chamber, I feel he will. I don't think he gets a one-on-one match with Cody. I think something screwy is going to happen. Somehow, The Rock or Roman or Rollins or a combination of one of those three or multiple of those three will somehow weasel their way into the title match as well. One of the big rumors right after the Rumble was a triple threat between Roman, Rollins, and CM Punk. To me, what for? What's the stakes? Number one contendership? That seems tough for three beyond main event guys. Like these are like your beyond, these are your above average guys here, your wrestlers, your franchise faces of WWE. So a number one contendership triple threat with the three of them. I don't know if anyone looks good at something like that. If you could put a different stake right there for a triple threat, sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if, and I didn't even mention Cena, somehow if Rock, Roman, Cena, Rollins gets involved in that match between Cody and CM Punk, where CM Punk has to cash in a favor to help it go back to a one-on-one match or to keep certain people out of the match, whatever. That favor may or may not come into play in the next 2 weeks. Remains to be seen. There's just a lot of different ways, but that's my caveat on CM Punk winning. I think if he does win, he's not going to get a true one-on-one matchup with Cody, and I think that will allow them to extend multiple feuds by not doing a one-on-one with Cody and CM Punk, but still give us something to look forward to and allow people to still look good despite a messy situation. So CM Punk, that's my winner for the men's chamber. Let me know your thoughts below on who you think might win both chamber matches, what you think of Sami and KO right now, what you think of this Cody and Rock confrontation that doesn't have to end in a match. The whole thing's confusing to me. We have to wait until after chamber to see. I'm sure I'll have more thoughts on where things could go, or at least a clearer picture after the PLE 2 nights. So stay tuned for those thoughts. So we got a lot of predictions out of the way today, both on the NASCAR side and the WWE side. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please leave your comments, thoughts below on this whole video. As always, I would appreciate a like and hope you are subscribed so you are set to see more content coming your way on this page. So like, share, comment, do your thing, help out. Thanks for watching, and see you next time for the final installment of John Cena's year-long booking. We just recorded that booking between me and Tyler, and it gets pretty emotional for this final chapter with John Cena. Thanks for watching.